Good morning, friends, and welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time here, then a big, huge, special welcome to you. I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button, clicking the little bell so you're notified of all my future uploads. As well, if this is your 10th time, 100th time, 50th time, second time here, and you still have not yet hit that subscribe button or click the little bell, I invite you as well to do so. And let's go ahead and get into today's video. Right, so spooky season is upon us. I have this fall dress on that I got from Shein. I did a Shein haul, and I did a video on everything that I got from Shein. I will link that video down below. But it's spooky season, and so I decided I wanted to do some spooky content, not necessarily Halloween makeup, because that is not something that I'm good at. Like period. Like drawing is not my strong suit. Yeah, no. Definitely not my strong suit. But I wanted to talk about some spooky things that happened to me while growing up. Were some of these things coincidence? Could it have been like supernatural? I don't know. I will leave that for you guys to decide. While I am talking about the spooky things, let's use this Bperfect Carnival, the Antidote palette in collaboration with Stacey Marie, who's a makeup artist. This is beautiful. It is like such a beautiful palette. I can't even begin to tell you. I have played with this quite a few times, and I always get compliments. I feel like it's so easy to create some beautiful fall looks. So I'm definitely going to create a really nice, like kind of like orangish yellow kind of a vibe to go with this dress. So I'm going to be focusing on this row, these columns, rows specifically. So if you guys are excited to see what look I create, what I think of this palette, as well as like the spooky things that happened to me growing up, then definitely keep on watching. All right, so I have my eyelids primed. Everything else besides this palette is going to be from this month's Shop Mustache. So let's go ahead, let's dive on into a shade in here. Start off with the shade Zest, like this yellow-ish shade. Just so you know, these shadows do have kick up. They are so pigmented. Like these are super, super pigmented shades. It's literally like just like mind-blowing to me how pigmented they are. Like, I mean, literally just a few swipes. Okay, so the first story I'm going to tell you is about a time when we lived in Minnesota. And when we lived in Minnesota, I was pretty little. I think we lived there from when I was like 2 until I was like 10. Is about when we lived in Minnesota. And we had these neighbors that like lived across the street from us. I can't ever remember their names. Truthfully, like I have no idea what their names are. But they lived across the street, and they had like this giant house, and they had a lot of kids too. I feel like their kids though were like slightly older than specifically me and my little sister. My older sister, however, is like 7 years older than me, so they were probably more closely resembling like her age. But obviously, like we weren't allowed to like just go there and hang out by ourselves until we were like a little bit older. So like 4 or 5, I would say, is the first time that I was able to like go over to their house. And I remember they had like this like thing called like the den, and it had like a whole bunch of couches, and like they had like this giant, at the time, okay, like this is in the 90s, at the time, like this giant TV, and it wasn't like even in their living room, it was like separate. So like, you know, they had money, because the only place we had a TV was in our living room, right? So I was like 4 or 5 at this time. I was in preschool. I know I was in preschool. And anyways, so we go over to their house, and I met this friend. And like I called him brother. And nobody else was ever able to see like this person. And so they just assumed that it was like an imaginary friend, right? Because that would just make sense. Like you're 4 or 5. But like I met this friend over at their house, and I remember this because what were they? I can't remember exactly what they were doing, but basically we were in like one of their bedrooms, and they had like really large size bedrooms. Like I remember their bedrooms being like a large size. But I just remember specifically remembering that like I just stopped like really hanging out and playing with them because I was like hanging out and like playing with brother. And so this imaginary friend was like, yeah, I'm your brother. Right? Okay. So like didn't have a name, nothing like that, but like I could describe, like if people wanted me to like describe what this like imaginary friend looked like, I would give like a very like specific, and it never changed. Like it was a very just like specific, like what he looked like. And and I described it like a person. It wasn't like, you know, like, oh, this is one of like my best friends, or like, oh, he dressed like a clown, or he's dressed like a taxi driver. I don't know. It was just like, it was like a boy, a younger boy. And he had short brown hair, and he wore like a suit is what he wore. And everybody was always like, oh, ha ha, you know, she's got an imaginary friend, how cute, how fun. And I was always like, he's not an imaginary friend, like he's real. And you know, of course nobody would believe me, but then like creepy things would like start happening like at home. And so brother never ever went back with me over to that house. Instead, he always just stayed at my house, and like we just stayed there. He just stayed at the house. It would wait until I would get home, and then we would like, you know, talk, play, whatever. The next shade I want to go into is actually the shade right here called Cinnamon. That's what I'm going to go into next. So, like that's just like, but like weird things would happen, and like I would get blamed for it. Like I would, like one time a cop came to our house and was like, hey, somebody keeps calling 911 and saying that they're in distress and needing help. And they're like, it's a young boy. And my mom told them, she's like, well, then it can't be from our phone because I don't have any young boys. Like I have 3 girls. She's like, one of them is way too little to even, like at this point, like my little sister was like a baby. So obviously that wouldn't have been her. And she's like, and my oldest is currently outside, like playing. She's like, the only one it would be, you know, Carrington in the house. And as far as I know, she was in watching TV while I was in the kitchen, which is where the phone is. So like the phone didn't go off. And the cop's like, well, you know, we have the ability to like track, you know, where phone calls are coming from, and we're definitely getting something from your house, and it's a little boy saying that they need help. And my mom's just like, okay, I'm guessing then it must be Carrington, and she's just like using a fake voice. And so she yells at me, and she's like, Carrington, did you call 911? And I said, no, I didn't call 911. It was brother. And the cop was like, well, I thought you didn't have a brother. And my mom was like, she doesn't have a brother. Like we literally have 3 kids. Brother's like her imaginary friend. She's like, I apologize. Apparently it was her because brother's just like her imaginary friend. I apologize. And the cop's like, okay, just, you know, make sure like this doesn't happen again. Like this, you know, this is a huge issue. And she's like, you know, I'm really, really sorry. So she's like, calls me in to the kitchen, and she's like, Carrington, you can't be calling 911. And I'm like trying to tell her, I was like, it really wasn't me, Mom. Like it was brother. And she's like, what voice did you make on the phone? And I was like, it wasn't me, it was brother. And I got in trouble. Like I got sent upstairs to my room, and like had to like stay there. Because like, you know, I was like considered like lying. Although I did not call the cops, and I don't even know the police officer. I was like horrified. Like, I don't know the police officer's number. Like, how am I supposed to know? Like, okay, so one night, like, I was just like playing, and I thought like I would be like sent to like our playrooms. We had a playroom upstairs, and there was a TV in like the little like living room area. And Destiny, my mom, I don't remember if my dad ever did, but Destiny and my mom would always watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like, you know, whenever it came on. And like I was too little at the time to like watch it, like, because, you know, that spooky thing. And there was like this thing. I'm gonna put a picture of it right here. It was called My Real Monster. Okay, if you remember this, you remember this. And it was in the toy room. Okay. That scared me so much. And I never, ever, ever had issues with this until Brother came around. And once Brother came around, like, I would be playing, and like I would get like this feeling that like something was watching me. And I would like turn, and I would see like My Real Monster's head like move back. And I mean, I lost my shit. And so my mom was like, what's going on? I don't understand what's going on. And so like I would tell her like, the My Real Monster, like, he moved his head. He's real. I mean, I was like absolutely just terrified. Next, I'm going to go into the shade right here called October. Like, I mean, like, I was petrified. I can't, oh gosh, it's so hard for me to even explain to you guys, just like, excuse me, just like how terrifying that was for me as a kid to like watch this happen. And for the longest time, my mom would be like, oh, it's just your imagination. And I was like, no, like, me and Brother were playing in the room, and I thought the monster was watching me. And when I looked, like, he just, like, you know, and my mom's just like, okay, yeah, it's your imagination. And like, I would not go into that playroom by myself or with Brother as long as that monster was in there. So finally my mom just like took it out, and she like put it up in like this closet. And she's like, all right, we'll take Monster away for a little bit. You know, give you some time to like realize that like this isn't real, that there's like, it's not a big deal. And anyways, so like then like that kind of like you know, nothing with like the, you know, monster came, you know, happened, because like the monster was gone. But then like after a few months, my mom was like, all right, let's just like try this again, because this is your sister's like stuffed animal. It's one that she like really loves. And so she like put it back in there. And then again, if I went in there and played by myself, nothing would happen. But if I went in there and played with Brother, that the little monster would like turn its head, and I would notice it. So then my mom removed it. Again, I know. You're probably like, geez. And I'm pretty sure my mom was like, geez. So like stuff like that would happen. And then like stuff would go missing. And it wasn't like super like important stuff, but just like randomly things would go missing. And I would get blamed for it, because usually it was like Destiny stuff, right? And so it couldn't have been Sheridan, because she's a baby. And so obviously it wasn't going to be my mom and dad, but like I hadn't moved anything. I hadn't taken anything. But then like stuff would like, I don't know, show up in like unexplainable places. And they would be like in places like in plain sight, like right there on like the center of like the dining room table or something like that. Like it would just be like weird thing, like things would go missing, and then like a few weeks later, it would just like randomly like show up like in the middle of the living room floor, or on the kitchen table, or just like, or on her bed, or just like something like that, right? it was just like so like I don't know, random, weird kind of a thing. And so stuff like that would happen. And so it was just like a lot of like unexplainable things would like happen. Time my mom was like over talking to like the neighbors, and was like telling them about like the weird like unexplainable things, and like came home and told me I wasn't allowed to hang out with this boy, and she said his name, and she didn't say brother, she like said his name, and I'm just like, okay, like not having any idea who this person was. Like I'm just like, cool, okay, if this person is, I can't remember, like Cameron, Anthony, something like that, this name, like I just want to hang out with them, not a big deal. I only go to preschool half a day, so whatever. But like, yeah, me and brother like hung out, and I stayed friends with brother until we moved. And then like once we moved, nothing. Like it all just like stopped. We moved into our new house and nothing. As for like the people that moved into our house after, couldn't tell you a word, couldn't tell you a thing. I'm guessing everything came out okay. So something else creepy that like happened was actually, I want to say I was like in 6th grade, maybe like 5th or 6th grade. Okay, like 5th or 6th grade. And we had like this, there was like a huge group of us. There was like a group of me and these girls that would like hang out like every single weekend. So originally when I moved into like this town that we moved to, we would always be together. So there was like 4 of us, and one of the girls' moms did like witchcraft, and they had like this Ouija board. And so this one girl lived like in town, and so like the other girl lived on like the outskirts of town. I lived on the outskirts of town, and then one girl lived in like a completely totally like different city. And so whenever it would be time, like whenever we would hang out, we would usually do it over at the girl that lived like in town. And her mom like worked a lot, or she like went on dates a lot, or whatever. Okay, whatever she did, whatever it is that she did. I'm not gonna cut my crease, just so we're aware, like the color that I went for like the outer corner, I mixed aubergine and pecan to kind of create like this outer look, and then I'm just gonna cut my crease with some concealer. So anyways, like witchcraft or whatever, and she had like this Ouija board, and one time she brought it over, and there was like a cemetery not too far away from like the girls that we stayed at a lot house. And so she was like, hey, the girl that brought the Ouija board was like, hey, let's go down to like the cemetery, like let's go down to the cemetery. I think it's gonna like work best there. And me never ever having any bad experience with a Ouija board, me truthfully like never really experiencing a Ouija board, period. I was like down, like I didn't ever think to be like, no, we shouldn't. Like here's just me like, okay, I'm not really for sure what we're doing or the point of this, but all right, sure. I'm down. And so we all go out into like this cemetery, and we all just kind of sit down, and at first it felt like very, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, fake, I guess is kind of the word I'm looking for. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so at first when like we would ask a question, it almost felt like one of the girls would like move the answer herself, instead of it being like directed by like force of nature, right? And like nothing creepy was happening. Okay, so here's me just like, all right, I guess this is like the point. Like it's supposed to like pretend like it's scary, and like this is like that's the point of the game. It's just supposed to pretend like it's spooky. And I was just like, okay, like I'm I'm down, whatever. So we just kind of sat there and played the game like that for a little while. And then it was like getting like super, super late, but like her mom like wasn't gonna get home till like super late. Actually, I think like her mom like stayed the night with like her boyfriend this night actually. So we all were just kind of like, hanging out in the cemetery at like midnight. In like 5th or 6th grade. Yikes. Okay, so anyways, that's what we were doing. We're just like hanging out in like this cemetery in like 5th or 6th grade. Living our life, right? Okay. But then, as like time went on, it almost felt like the Ouija board was like actually like moving, like by itself. Like it didn't really feel like it was like, like somebody like trying to like push it to like the names. And you could start telling that we were all starting to get a little bit like freaked out. And so finally she was like, are there spirits? Are there like dark spirits? And they always like moved to like the yes. Okay. I, for one, if I literally never would have believed in like Ouija boards or whatever, like I would have thought this was just like a kid's game. Especially like during the first part where I was just like, oh yeah, they're moving it. Like that's the point of the game. Like that's just how you play it. Like I honestly would have thought like that. Like it was like how you played it. All right, so I'm gonna take this shade right here called Pin Up on a finger in the center to outer of my lid. So I literally just thought that like that's just like how you played. Like actually I need to like glitter prime my eyes. But then it kind of like I think the girl that brought the board too was also under the impression that like, like her mom telling her that like this like it can attract like dark forces and spirits and stuff. Also thought that that was like silly and funny and like that wasn't true, but like you could tell like she was starting to get like really like freaked out, and like everybody else was honestly just like getting like super freaked out. And so we like, okay, so like everybody's like freaking out, and I'm like, oh no, what do we do? Like whatever. And instead of like stopping the game, they just like continued on. And I'm just like, oh no. I'm just like, oh no. Oh no, no, no. And anyways, I can't even remember like what other questions were like asked, right? But then it started getting like really, really super like windy. I am talking like windy, like out of nowhere. Here comes like the wind and the sky, like whatever. So much wind, and I mean we are all like freaked out at this point. And so then we're like, okay, I think we need to leave. Like we were like very much like, I think we need to like leave. And like it was getting like super windy, and it got cold. Like it was like the middle of the summer. Like it was literally the middle of the summer. It was during the week. Like we were like hanging out at like her house. We didn't have school or anything. And it just got like so windy and cold. And I mean, I'm talking like earth-shatteringly cold. Like, I can't even explain it. Like, it felt like snow was gonna come. Like, that's how cold it was. Like, it literally felt like snow was gonna burst out amongst us. And so we were like, okay, it's like time to go. Like, we need to leave. We take off and we left that game. And like, she honestly got in trouble for like not bringing the game back home from like her mom. And I was like, yeah, that's a punishment I would be willing to take. Like, you know, that's fine. You can be mad at me all you want, but that's some scary stuff. So yeah, that's like another thing that like happened. One was actually like fairly recently. I would say, let's see, what year are we in? We're in 2021. So like 5 years ago. Right? Yeah, 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I had started a job at a like psychiatric center, right? And it was part of like the hospital. So like, you know, wherever, you know, if you had chemo, you were in this, you know, or cancer, or you were in intensive care unit, it's in the exact same hospital, but everything for like every other floor was like on this side, and then the psychiatric center had its own area at the very other end of the hospital. And I had just started, I want to say, was it in the summer? I think it was in the summer. Yeah. Okay. So it was like in the summer, and I had originally started this job PRN. I had worked 2 other jobs. I worked a full-time job at a school. I was like a, special education and registered behavior technician, for this school. And then I would, so many evenings a week, work at my part-time job, which was at a detention center for kids, a juvenile detention center. And then I also worked at this, like, you know, psychiatric facility a lot of times on the weekend, because I would do like a lot of like overnights, or evenings. But if I did overnights, I would do it like on the weekends, to like help them out, just because like my husband would be home with them at night, like would be like at home with them at night, and then I would work, and then when by the time I got off in the morning, he would then go into like his like weekend part-time job, and then like I would watch the kids, and then whenever he got home, you know, I would go to sleep, and like he would just like watch them, and then I would get up and like get ready and spend a little bit of time with the kids. So like we did that, and so it was like middle of the night one night, and I was working up on the peds unit. And so one of like the cool things about like the peds unit that's cooler than the other units is like so like sleeping is like a really good part of like your mental health. Like having like a good like sleep schedule is like important. And so for like the kids, you know, it was split up. So like each side, there was like 2 sides, and it was divided by like a wall with a door. This side, like one side would have like the older kids, the other side would have like the younger kids, and then like the younger kids would go to bed, I think around like an hour or 2 before like the older kids. And then like the thing is like when you go into your bedroom, like that doesn't mean like you had to go to sleep right away. I think we would give them like an hour or 2 to like, you know, be able to sit in their room and like read, and like they didn't have phones or anything like that, but like be able to like read, or, you know, just do whatever to like get ready, right? And so I think like lights off officially was at like 11 p.m. So like at that point, like everybody then had to like turn off their lights, and we do it's called rounding. And so basically every hour a mental health tech, is what we were called, mental health technician, would be responsible for like going around and like, it was like, I think you go like every 15 minutes. I think, yeah, it's like every 15 minutes you go through, you go and you check all the rooms, check the seclusion room, check the bathrooms, all that, and you like document where everybody is and what they're doing. So there's like a in room awake, in room asleep, yada yada yada, whatever. Okay, so finally it was like 3:20 in the it was 3:20 in the morning. So it was like 10 minutes before like the next person, like before the tech was supposed to round. And me and this girl were literally just like sitting here, and we were just like on the computers, and we were just like chit-chatting. And up at the nurse's desk, which is where we sat, there are like cameras that look into like the seclusion rooms, because if somebody is secluded, then the door is shut and a staff member is like sitting outside the door watching you and like documenting on you as well. But then if you are restrained, then the door would be open and you would have a staff member with all eyes on you. So sometimes, you know, when you have like a little slit in the door, you can't necessarily always see every last inch of like the room. And so, you know, we could, you know, easily call out to the nurse's station and be like, hey, I don't have like eyes on. And then somebody would be able to like, you know, sit there and like watch every aspect of like the room up at the nurse's station. And so we were just like sitting there, and we were sitting next to like this thing, and the person that was rounding was up at the desk talking to us. And I had just like glanced over at like the camera, and I was like did a double take, because I was like, oh my god, it looks like somebody's in there. And so I like made a comment to like the girl that was like sitting next to me that I was like chit-chatting with. I was like, I think somebody's in the restraint and seclusion room. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm not joking. Like, I think there's somebody in the restraint and seclusion room. And she looks and she's like, there is somebody in there. She's like, so then she asks my coworker, she's like, hey, can you go like check out like the restraint and seclusion room and figure out who's in there and have them go back to their room? And they were like, yeah. And so they like go, and they're like, but yeah, but how did we like not notice like anybody like getting out of bed, like their door opening, or like the seclusion, or like them walking like right past us to like the seclusion room? Like, how did none of us notice that? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, that's a good question. I was like, but we're literally looking right here, like there is legit somebody in the restraint seclusion room. And so they like go and they like check it out, and then they like come back out, and they're like, no, nobody's in there. And we're like, yeah, we just saw them on camera. And he's like, no, really, nobody's in there. And so we all like get up and we like go over to the restraint, flip on the lights. Nobody's there. Nothing. Not a person at all. It's in the restraint and seclusion room. And we are like, listen, we saw somebody moving on camera. And so the guy was like, well, could it have been like a bug that maybe had gotten in front of like the camera? And we're like, no, like, this wasn't in front of the camera. Like, we could see them on camera. Like, it was like a dark figure like walking around like the bed. And he was like, there's nobody in there. Oh my gosh. My mouth dropped. I was like, I was freaked out. Oh man. Okay, so then let's talk about the most recent scare that I had. And this has to do with like my house, kind of. Okay, so this is like definitely like, it's not anything like paranormal related, okay? I will say my house is haunted, and I'm actually going to do a video where I'm like testing out some more new makeup, and I'm doing like story time on like my house being haunted. But this is like me telling you guys about a situation that was not actually a paranormal experience, but I originally thought it was. And oh man, when I tell you I almost booked it out of my whole house and left everyone else in it, I did. Okay. All right. So if you're a mom and you have this exact same experience, let me know. But I can sleep through my husband snoring the house down. I can sleep through middle of the night alarms going off. I can sleep through the dogs barking at cars outside. I can sleep through a lot. Like I'm telling you guys, I can sleep through a lot. Okay? And so, but let me just say, if my kids even make the tiniest of sounds, okay, like the tiniest, itty bittiest of sounds, rolls over in the middle of the night, goes, in the middle of the night, I am like, right? Like I am awake. I am like, I'm there. Okay. I am awake and everything else, right? Okay. So one night it was like 3 a.m. It was like a little bit after 3 a.m., but it wasn't like 3:34. Like it was like 3:05, 3:10, 3:15, something like that. And I hear my son wake up and he was kind of like crying. And so here's me like jumping out of bed, rushing, me like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And so I like turn on his light and he wasn't in his bed. And I was like, where the hell is this kid? Like, where does he think he's going? So anyways, I like turn on the hallway light and there he is in the hallway, kind of like pacing up and down the hallway. And all of us, like, I'm just like, oh my God, like, what's wrong? What's going on, honey? Like, tell me, like, mommy's here. Mommy's here to save the day. Like, what's going on? And, like, my son, I'm like trying out blush draping. All of a sudden, like, you can hear him kind of being like, get this baby out of my tummy. Get this baby out of my tummy. I mean, like, okay, like, here's me like, what the fuck? Like, what are you, you don't, honey, there's no baby in your tummy. Like, there's nothing there. Like, there's no baby in your tummy. And, I mean, he is just full blown, like, freaking out. Like, get this baby out of my tummy. And I'm, like, trying to, like, talk to him. And he is not, like, responding to, like, anything I am saying. He literally looks, like, dead in the eyes. Okay? Like, just dead in the eyes. Like, he's just staring off into, like, space. And, like, he's just, like, not registering anything. Okay. When I tell you, I thought that my child was possessed. And let me fucking tell you, I cannot do, like, demonic possessions. That is, like, if you want a whole story on, like, my Zoloft experience, I will do a video on that. That was an experience. Wow. Okay. So, I literally was like, oh no. Like, what am I going to do? Like, what are we going to do? Like, this, what's happening? And so, I'm like, we gotta leave. I was like, we just have to leave. And so, like, I, like, fly into my bedroom. And I, like, open up the closet. And it's, like, 3 something in the morning. And I'm, like, throw the suitcase on the bed. And I just start packing, like, essentials. And my husband wakes up. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing, Carrington? And I'm like, we gotta go. I was like, Holden's possessed. I was like, we have to go. I don't know what else there is to say. And he's like, what are you talking about? So I tell him, like, what's happening. And he's like, what? What? And so he goes out there. And indeed, there's Holden Staring off into sea, screaming, get this baby out of my belly. Okay? Alright. So here's me like, I'll get Charlene, like, come, like, you get Charlene, I'll pack. And he's like, no. So he literally's like, Holden. And like, Holden's just like not responding. And finally he just like shakes him and he's like, Holden. And then Holden just kind of just like pops up. And it's like, he's fine. Like, he's whatever. And we're just like, Holden, you all right, bud? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, what are you doing out of your bed? He's like, I don't know. He literally can't recall ever, whatever. So anyways, it was actually him sleepwalking. So we figured out that when he gets things with red dye 40 in it, this is actually like confirmed by a doctor, that he sleepwalks. They said that it's kind of common in like kids with like autism. You know, so I guess whatever. But I freaked out. I've never panicked so much in my life. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my face off of camera, come back, talk about this, give you my final thoughts, and then we will wrap up this video. All right, so I am back. Here is the finished look. What do you guys think? Let's go ahead and get started into my final thoughts on this palette. Okay, this palette is incredible. I have never tried anything from Bperfect. I have never tried any of these other Carnival palettes, but I am in love. So I have definitely created quite a few looks using kind of like this row. I've used this row. I haven't really played a lot in this row. I'm sure some of you guys are shocked because usually greens are my jam. I just haven't yet. But I have played in this palette like a lot. Like I had picked out like a palette, 2 palettes actually, for my Shop My Stash, and I find myself reaching into this every day more than those. This is such an incredibly good palette. The pigment is there, the blendability is there, the shimmer, the impactfulness of the shimmers is there. I always create a look that I am just like so happy about, and I love just like going into work ready to like slay the day, ready to like take on the world. Right? Okay, if you're there, you're there. Let me know if you guys have tried this palette. I will say, if you guys have not tried this palette, but are looking for a really, really nice fall palette, or maybe even something that you could use every single day. I mean, these colors kind of do scream a little bit more, you know, fall to me, but you could easily use this for every day. This is a little bit expensive. I'm not going to lie. I think this is like 50 something dollars. Okay, it's like 50 something dollars, but you get 55 shades. No, you get 45 shades. This is such a good deal. I would say absolutely go and like check out this palette. Joanne, I know you're a drugstore girl. Okay. I know, like, I know, but this palette or any others, I know I'm sending you the 3, but like, I think you should check out the 4 too. Okay. And this goes for anybody else. If you have not checked out this brand, this formula, I can't speak for their other palettes, but for like the Stacey Marie collaborations, they're so good. Like that formula is there, that quality is there. It's so good. So let me know if you guys have picked up this palette. Let me know what you guys think of this look. How do you guys think it turned out? I'm ready to now go into work and like own the day. So let me know down in the comments if anything spooky has ever happened to you. But that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a huge thumbs up. Comment down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Click the little bell if you have not already. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.